that if you want to think about one field in which new technologies are really changing in a fundamental way what it means to be human or our identity, then transgenders is kind of the obvious place to go. And this is kind of the template for transhumanism in many ways. That it starts maybe with gender, but it will increasingly impact more and more parts of human identity.
You say that the latest human quest is immortality and divinity. We're all trying to be superhumans. Is that actually happening?
Yes, in places like Silicon Valley, equality is out, but immortality is in. Everybody's talking about immortality. Google has just established 2 or 3 years ago a sub-company called Calico, whose stated aim is to solve the problem of death. We've solved search, now we'll solve death. And they are not the only ones. And basically they are saying death is not some metaphysical phenomenon. We don't have to wait for the second coming of Christ in order to solve it. A couple of geeks in a laboratory can do it.
Are they doing it?
Yeah, they are investing billions in that. Not only them, but all over the world. Basically, there are 3 ways. You can use biological engineering to change the human body, to speed up natural selection. You can use cyborg engineering, which is combining organic with inorganic parts. And you can create completely inorganic life forms. It will be not only the greatest revolution in history, it will be the greatest revolution in biology ever.
Will we still be human?
Not in the sense that we understand humanity today.
You have a small elite that pushes things in its own interests, even if it doesn't benefit the vast majority of the population. This has happened so many times previously in history, and it's probably going to happen again. One of the biggest dangers to the planet today is this technological utopia, because probably for the elite it will work. If bad comes to worst, and when the flood comes, the scientists will build a Noah's Ark for the elite, leaving the rest to drown, the rest of the people and then the rest of the ecosystem. But they are likely to be able to construct this technological Noah's Ark, which is probably what much of the elite is counting on. Terrorism kills a handful of people, and you have all the governments and millions of people terrified from it. Climate change can kill not a handful of people, but millions upon millions of people. And we should place climate change far above terrorism. We don't know much about Jesus as a person, but from the little we know, for instance, from the stories preserved in the New Testament, he never claimed to be God. He was basically this kind of hippie guru in this small province of the Roman Empire.
Sexy carpenter.
Who wanted to reform Judaism and basically tell people be nicer to each other. After he died, his followers weaved this more and more elaborate stories about who he really was, until eventually some of them began claiming that he was God. For Jesus himself and his first followers, this would have sounded utterly preposterous and blasphemous.
Yes.
To claim that I'm God?
Because he was Jewish. He did not think he was Yahweh.
Was Jewish.
Am I allowed to say that?
He did not think he was Yahweh. He never says it. In line, you have a lot of, previous prophets like Jeremiah and Isaiah coming to the people, telling them, you should behave better. And he's doing the same thing. During his time, we have evidence of a lot of other leaders in Judaism that try to reform Judaism in different ways. And this is basically what he's also saying, and the people around him, this is what they hear. But then decades and generations after he's dead, and he's not there to be able to object, you have people say, no, this rabbi, this guru, who had a small following and was eventually crucified by the hated Romans. He was actually the God that created the whole of the universe.
That's so crazy.
We just learned of this, that really Paul wrote down all the stuff. And Paul had never met Jesus. He never met him. He wasn't even a contemporary of him. And that not one human that surrounded Jesus was literate. So none of them wrote it down.
Paul was the one who created the brand.
Yes.
You have Elvis and you have his manager.
That was my exact, I said the exact same thing. I'm like,
So
oh, he was
exactly.
Colonel Parker.
Exactly.
Jesus is God. There's a Holy Trinity. They're all one thing. There's the Holy Spirit, there's God and his Son, but they're all one thing. So God was here, and then he said, fuck, they're all off kilter. I'm going to send my own Son down there to lead them out of this quagmire, and then I'm going to let them die for their sins. But he just ascended back to heaven and I guess reconfigured with his one self.
I mean, in contemporary terms, he's a-binary.
Okay.
Or he's gender fluid.
Okay.
Like he's both. Is he human?
Fluid.
Is he divine? No.
Yeah.
He's human fluid.
Wow.
He can be both at the same time.
I'd love to party with him, man. Everything's on the table.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. It's not a good explanation, but I'll take it.
The Trinity is one of the most complex theological and philosophical ideas that humans ever came up with.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of Christians don't really understand it either.
Yes.
This is why you have this profession of theologians who spend their entire life just trying to get it exactly right.
Yeah.
What is the relation between God the Father and God the Son and the Holy Spirit and all that? AI is the first technology ever invented that can actually make decisions independently, and it is increasingly making decisions about us. So today in the United States, forget about China or Iran, in the US, you apply to a bank to get a loan, increasingly it's an AI that decides whether to give you a loan or not.
Oh.
You apply for a job, increasingly it's an AI. In the justice system, increasingly, AI is being used to determine sentences for people.
Really?
Το περασμένο Σεπτέμβριο είχα την ευκαιρία να βρεθώ σε ένα πάνελ στο Athens Democracy Forum με τον Γιουβάλ Χαράρι, τον Ισραηλινό φιλόσοφο και ιστορικό. Ήταν πριν από τις εκλογές στη Γερμανία και θυμάμαι χαρακτηριστικά τον Χαράρι να αναφέρει στο πάνελ ότι αυτό που εμένα με ενδιαφέρει να δω, είπε, είναι το τι λένε τα γερμανικά πολιτικά κόμματα για την τεχνητή νοημοσύνη και όχι για τις κλασικές πολιτικές, τα κλασικά πεδία πολιτικής συζήτησης. Το οποίο προφανώς μπορεί αυτό να φαίνεται, αν θέλετε, πολύ προχωρημένο για τα μέτρα μας ή σε σχέση με τα προβλήματα που όλοι αντιμετωπίζουμε ή αλληλεπιδρούμε με πολίτες που αντιμετωπίζουν στο πεδίο. Αλλά νομίζω ότι δείχνει κάτι. Δείχνει ότι αυτή η διαδικασία θα γίνει ή με εμάς ή χωρίς εμάς. Και το μέλλον γενικά ή το σχεδιάζεσαι ή το υφίστασε.
Need a human to actually read all the data being collected. So you have things like social credit system, which is now being developed, which is basically taking all the data about you and giving you a score. If you have a low score, then you won't be admitted to university. Or a prestigious university. You can only go to the lousy universities. You cannot buy an airplane ticket. You cannot get a ticket to the fastest trains. You can only go on the slower trains. I mean, there's so many things that as a result of having a low social credit score. And the thing is, it's everything you do. If you think about money, so money is a system to give value to certain things you do in life. Like you work, you get money for that. But most of the things you do, they don't have a money value. But this is a way to basically monetize the whole of life. Everything you do. You tell a joke. If it's the wrong joke, you lose some credit for it.
Oh my God.
If you did something that they liked, you get a score. So it also means that the whole of life becomes much, much more stressful. This is not just China. This is also the US, other countries. If you're being monitored all the time and the data is always there, whatever you do could influence, your job prospects in 20 years. With AI and smartphones and all that, it's a game changer. Because you don't need millions of human agents to follow everybody around. You have the smartphones. People are paying for the agent from their own money and subsidizing their agent and taking the agent everywhere. And even if you don't have your own smartphone, there are other devices. People. The easiest way to grab people's attention is to make them frightened. This is how we are built, really, as animals. So if you want to distract the public from issues like government corruption, or like deteriorating healthcare system, or deteriorating education system, the best thing is to find an external enemy that threatens the survival of the nation, and immediately that gets all the attention. Terrorism kills a handful of people, and you have all the governments and millions of people terrified from it. Climate change can kill not a handful of people, but millions upon millions of people. And we should place climate change far above terrorism. There is less room to criticize the government, because then you are immediately labeled a traitor. Like, this is war now. We're in a national emergency. We all have to unite around the government, and anybody who opposes that or criticizes the government is a traitor. This is like, we saw it throughout history. So it's the same logic with, with terrorism in the West, as you say. And this is why very often, even in a situation when there is no real threat, leaders are manufacturing artificial threats. Yes, in the Industrial Revolution, we saw the creation of a new class of the urban proletariat. And much of the political and social history of the last 200 years involved what to do with this class and the new problems and opportunities. Now we see the creation of a new massive class of useless people. As computers become better and better in more and more fields, there is a distinct possibility that computers will outperform us in most tasks and will make humans redundant. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. But this doesn't sound like a very appealing future.
Okay, so you're basically saying in the book, and now, that for all the discussion about the growing evidence of significant economic inequality, we are just kind of at the beginning of the process?
Again, it's not a prophecy. It's seeing all kinds of possibilities before us. One possibility is this creation of a new massive class of useless people. Another possibility is the division of humankind into different biological castes, with the rich being upgraded into virtual gods and the poor being degraded to this level of useless people.